list can be imagined as an array. Now here, just like array, lists are enclosed within square brackets, open and close. List can have any type of elements like alphabets, like numericals. It can also have some predicates inside it. It can also contain a list, that is, nested list is allowed. List can be empty. So for empty list, it does not contain any kind of elements. It has only open and close square brackets. And while performing some operations on the list, a list can become empty. So how it can become empty, we will come to that shortly. Now these are some example of list that we are talking about. So the first example, it contains different words inside the list, separated by comma. Second, it is a mixture of words, contains alphabet, single alphabet, and numerical values along with predicate, where Robert is the predicate, and inside predicate, honey underscore bunny is the value. And number 3 is the empty list. Number 4 is another kind of list. And number 5, where list is present inside the list, and empty list can also present inside the list. Hello everyone. I'm going to discuss about list in Prolog. Unlike array, list in Prolog cannot be accessed through their index values. As in Prolog, there is no concept of loop, there is only concept of recursion to access different elements. So here, inside list, we cannot access elements of the list through their index values. But on the other hand, there is a possibility to access each element one by one by the concept called head and tail. So what is head? So as you can see over here, within the square bracket open and close, H pipe T indicates, H indicates head and T indicates tail. Now you can also have multiple heads, like here H1, H2, pipe T. This indicates that H1 is the first head, H2 is the second head, that is H1 consists of ABC, H2 consists of XYZ, and excluding ABC and XYZ from the original list, DEF, ATV, PQR makes another list which resides inside the tail. Likewise, if you have a more different number of heads, pipe tail, in that case, if you store ABC, XYZ, DEF, ATV, and PQR inside H1, H2, H3, H4, and H5, then all these elements will be separately stored in the following H1, H2, H3, H4, and H5, and the tail part will only contains the empty list. For example, here, inside this list, we only have one element XYZ, and we are trying to split this list into head and tail. So head is H1, pipe tail. So head will consist the only element present inside the list, that is XYZ, will be stored inside the variable H1, and the variable tail will have the empty list, because excluding the XYZ from the list, it remains only empty list, so tail will have the empty list. And the last is, for an empty list, there are no head and no tail. So we cannot split an empty list. There will be an syntax error. Now, let us start with the very first program of the list in Prolog. So to run the first program, I am using SWI Prolog. It is a free software. You can download it from the internet and install it in your system. And once you install, you just click open it. This is basically the terminal page where you have to execute all the programs. To write the programs, first I'm clicking on the file over here. Then since my file is entirely new, so I'll click on new. Then here I write first Prolog program. And I press enter. And it will open the editor page. See, on the editor page, you will have .pl. So to execute the Prolog program, it consists of an extension with .pl. The file name will be your choice. You can give any file name, any relevant file name. After that, .pl is the extension will automatically come with your given file name, so that this program can be executable. Now, one more thing, the Prolog is a compiler based program. So once you write the program, you have to compile the program. Here, to find whether an element is a member of a list or not, I have written the program as mem. The mem is the predicate function, and inside the predicate function, I have two arguments. The first argument here indicates the element I am searching for, and the second argument indicates the list inside where I will be searching. So what does the first function do, or the first predicate does? So the first predicate is the stopping predicate, or is the base case that we say in recursion. So for a base case, what it first split the list into two different parts, that is head and tail. And if the head is matches with the target element that I am trying to find, that is the X, then the program will stop and it will give me answer in the form of true or false. If it not, then it eliminate the head portion from the list. That alternate logic I have written in the second part. If this part fails, then it comes to the second part. So what it does, it eliminates the head and recursively calls the tail again. So recursively it calls the tails again. So head is out of the list. So I am going forward with the tail. And again I am calling the element that I want to search and new list, that is the tail. Again it will go over here and check whether from this tail it will again split head and tail. And if head and the desired element is identified, if it matches, then the program will halt. Let us check this example. In this example, I have a member function as mem as a predicate. The first argument, it contains the element C, and the second argument contains the list. And the elements of the list are A, B, C, D. Now let us check how does Prolog execute this program and give the answer. First, the Prolog will start computing with the base condition, and here it will split the element into head and tail, and head is A. Now A is not equals to the search element, so here C and A does not match. So as per the given criteria, X and X does not match, so it move on to the next predicate. In the next predicate, what it does, it in the first argument is contains the search element C, and then it again splits the original list into head and tail, and head is A, which will be stored inside H, and tail T, it will contain B, C, D, a new list. Now since it is not only a predicate rather than it is a rule, so the rule says that it should recursively call again the member predicate with the first argument as search element and the second argument as new list, that is the tail of the original list. So this becomes the new list, or this becomes the current original list. Now this list contains B, C, D. So once this is called, the program will again go to the first member predicate, that is the base condition. Now again with the base condition, again it split the list into head and tail. Now head is currently B and the tail will be C and D. So this B again does not match with C. So the first predicate that I have written in the program will not get executed. It becomes false. So we try to identify the alternate member predicate. So here we have the alternate member predicate, that is to eliminate the head from the list. So here it is. So again, it goes with the alternate predicate where it calculates, split the list into two parts, that is head. Now currently the head is B. Now the tail is C and D. Now again this is a rule. So it again recursively call the member predicate, and in the second argument it only passes the tail, not the head. So it only passes the tail, not the head. So we can see that here the tail is C, D. So this C, D gets passed into the member predicate, and member predicate is again called. So while it get again called, it will again start from the beginning. So in the beginning of the program, the first member predicate is nothing but the base condition. Now again it will split the newly received list into head and tail, and it has already split it C, and the rest of the tail contains only one element D. Now here C and C matches with each other. So after eliminating two head, that is A in the first, and in the second, that is B, after eliminating two heads, the program is able to identify the head element, which is my search element. So recursively eliminating the non-required head element until and unless it identifies the target element. So once it identified the target element, so here the search element matches with the head of the tail, and thus the program stops stating that it is true. Now let us compile the program. So to compile the program, I have to click on compile and then compile buffer, then OK. And here there is a warning. It is not an error, it is warning. So there is a warning with P and H. What is the warning for? I'll come to that later on. So as of now, I am click on quit. So I go to the terminal, and here, as you can see, the program has been compiled. It is in green, and any warning or error comes in red. So for warning, it is not an error. You are able to execute the program, because after warning you see that the program has been successfully compiled. In a green, message is there. So right now I will press an enter so that the question mark hyphen comes in. Now here I will type in my query. So the predicate name was mem. First argument is a, comma, and I will provide the list a, b, c, d. Now after every query in the Prolog, you have to make a stop, and the stop is nothing but dot. So if you forget, the execution will not complete, will not show up. So I press enter and it gives me true. Now again I write another query where my search element is C and the list is same a, b, c, d, and then I press again enter and again it comes true. Now let us give another search element which is k, which will not be present inside my list. So a, b, c, d is my list, and again I am pressing enter. It gives me false. Since after eliminating all the heads, when it finally reach at the empty list where there will be no possibility of heads anymore, and in that, until that position, no head matches with the search element, thus finally the Prolog gives you the answer as false, that it does not able to match any of the head element with the search element. Now let us check why this warning came here, th as a singleton variable. Now here warning came because here x is the search element which is present at the first argument, and here another x is present at the second argument. So here Prolog understand that x has been utilized, the value of x has been utilized over this entire fact, or if you have a rule, then the entire rule, the x or any variable has been utilized more than once. That means there is a comparative study. So here x and x gives a comparison. So comparativeness is there. Now here, if you observe the tail actually stores the rest of the list excluding the head part, but it is not used anywhere. It is actually useless. Now in this predicate, since tail is not getting used, so using a variable, using a memory location, using a memory space to store something which is not actually used in the entire predicate or entire rule, so you can eliminate this tail, but you have to write something over here because syntax says so. So to write something, you can use a variable called anonymous variable. This anonymous variable helps to maintain the syntax of the structure, syntax of the logic, but it will not actually utilize any memory space, or it will not store any values inside it. Now similarly, if I go to the next predicate, in this predicate rule, here also head is actually used in the logic, because in the sense of splitting the list into two parts, that is head and tail. So that is why the h has been used, but unfortunately this h is not getting utilized, or it is not getting compared, or it is not actually used. It is only used in the form of syntax. So in this case, here also Prolog identifies a warning in the sense that it has some doubt, it has some confusion that whether h is actually being utilized in the program or not. As per the syntax, it is required. Now as per the logic, it is not used, not utilized. So again we can remove this h in the form of anonymous variable, and thus anonymous variable helps to maintain the syntax of the Prolog program, and it also helps to maintain the logic of the program, but it will not store any variable inside it. The values that are not utilized will not be stored. Now if I compile and click OK, here you see no more warning is there, nothing. And as you can see, without giving any warning, it directly gives me a green message that the Prolog has been compiled. Now if I execute it, mem c, a, b, c, d, and I close the list and then execute the program by hitting enter, it will give me true.